a sun-drenched afternoon in Santa Monica in the late summer of 1936, a time when the country was still grappling with the lingering impact of the Great Depression, but beginning to peer forward with a cautious hope. Into this atmosphere stepped Charles Robert Redford Jr., soon to become known to the entire world simply as Robert Redford. He was born on August 18th of that year to Martha, originally from Texas, and Charles Robert Redford, an accountant with Standard Oil whose own roots reached back to Connecticut. From the moment little Robert first opened his eyes, life already seemed to be weaving a tapestry of varied influences. A father shaped by numbers and practicalities, and a mother whose Southwestern heritage added a flavor of vibrancy to their home environment. And the broader lineage of English, Scottish, Cornish, and Irish ancestry brought its own echoes, quietly shaping the young boy who would later navigate a destiny far more grand and far-reaching than he, or anyone around him, could have possibly imagined at the time. In those early days, Robert grew up by the glimmering coastline of California, cutting his teeth in a world perched between the cinematic illusions of Hollywood and the raw bustle of real-life struggles. One might think that a future screen legend would have enjoyed a fairly straightforward path to success, but Robert's childhood was marked by the same restlessness and curiosity that so many creative talents experience. To call him a mere rascal might be an understatement. Rumors have floated around that he got in trouble for petty antics like stealing hubcaps and didn't always live by the straight and narrow code many might assume. This rebellious streak painted him more in the mold of a scrappy kid who preferred testing boundaries rather than quietly accepting them. As he entered his teenage years, it became clear that Robert was gifted athletically, especially on the baseball field. He earned a scholarship at the University of Colorado, an opportunity that many aspiring athletes would have guarded jealously. But the enticements of youth, coupled with the freedom of university life, sometimes lead bright talents astray. In Robert's case, he got into partying, and drunkenness cost him his once secure scholarship. It was perhaps his first significant brush with a stark reality that life won't hesitate to strip away your gifts if you don't guard and nurture them. The disappointment must have stung, yet it also served to steer him onto an entirely different path, one that would lead him to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York, and ultimately the stage. When Robert first attended the American Academy of Dramatic Arts around 1959, he had lofty dreams of becoming a theatrical designer rather than stepping directly into the limelight as a performer. Still, the draw of the stage was too strong to resist, and soon he found himself transitioning from the behind-the-scenes realm of design to the center of the footlights. His stage debut arrived in a production called Tall Story in 1962. Though small, it was a crucial launching point, the kind of experience that every actor needs to taste, that moment when they walk in front of an audience, feeling the lights on their skin and the adrenaline in their veins, aware that absolutely anything can happen. This wasn't just a new hobby. Something in him lit up in those moments, and the exhilaration of the stage seemed to beckon him forward, urging him to keep going. Soon after, he was cast in the stage production of Barefoot in the Park, which proved an incredible smash. Yet the real cultural splash wouldn't come until 5 years later, when that play was adapted into a film. By then, Robert was stepping into the Hollywood ecosystem with a fresh aura, combining boy-next-door good looks with an all-American vibe that felt genuine. There was an approachable quality to him, a sense of a man who knew how to roll up his sleeves and get his hands dirty. That was precisely the type of persona that Hollywood would be hungry for, especially in an era where the traditional icons, think tall, dark, and chiseled men from the 40s and 50s were being replaced by younger, more nuanced actors eager to bring subtlety and fresh energy to the screen. Robert's charisma, therefore, gave him an advantage. He was perceived not just as handsome, but also as someone who might carry a certain depth or sensibility behind those bright blue eyes. By the time he was 33, Robert's career truly broke wide open when he snagged the role of the Sundance Kid in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Co-starring alongside Paul Newman, he embodied a renegade outlaw whose cool confidence and sometimes mischievous humor captured the hearts of audiences around the globe. Even the title alone, the Sundance Kid, became a catchphrase that evoked images of the rugged western frontier, wide-open prairies, and a certain rebellious allure that was hard to resist. It wasn't simply a role in a successful movie. It was a cultural milestone, the kind of film that cements an actor's status as a new Hollywood icon, able to propel him from recognized talent to full-fledged star. Then came The Way We Were in 1973, a film that showcased his romantic leading man side, pairing him with the incomparable Barbra Streisand. That same year, he also starred in The Sting, a playful, twist-laden caper movie that reunified him with Paul Newman, capitalizing on their earlier chemistry. Between those two hits, Robert Redford rocketed to the apex of box office success, becoming the top-grossing star for 3 consecutive years. He transitioned from an actor with promise to a bona fide screen legend, someone who could carry a movie on name recognition alone, who could grace magazine covers and fuel tabloids with speculation about his personal life. Of course, Hollywood success can be a gilded cage, and Robert had no intention of living within those boundaries. Where others might have simply basked in fame, he used his influence to champion environmental causes and support the up-and-coming talents of filmmaking. He had wealth now, enough to purchase property in Utah that he would mold into a ranch and eventually Sundance Ski Resort. That alone might have been impressive. But in 1980, he went a step further and established the Sundance Institute, dedicated to nurturing independent filmmakers. It was a bold move, but one in line with Robert's belief that cinema could be a powerful medium for new voices. Today, the Sundance Film Festival stands as one of the most influential celebrations of independent film in the world. Each January in Utah, hordes of movie enthusiasts, critics, and industry insiders descend upon the snowy streets, eager to discover what hidden gems might become the next big cultural phenomenon. For all his success as an actor, Robert also harbored an affinity for directing. His directorial debut came with Ordinary People in 1980, a searing familial drama that delved into the emotional scars left by a traumatic event. Rather than choosing a flashy action flick for his first foray behind the camera, he opted for a more intimate story. That artistic gamble paid off magnificently. He won the Academy Award for Best Director. Achieving that level of success on a first directorial outing was remarkable, an almost unheard of Hollywood success story that only a select few have ever managed to replicate. Instead of milking that triumph by rushing to direct more, he bided his time, waiting 8 years before returning with The Milagro Beanfield War, a screen adaptation of John Nichols's acclaimed novel set in the Southwest. In the following years, Robert continued to balance acting roles with behind-the-camera endeavors. Movies such as A River Runs Through It, 1992, featuring a young and still up-and-coming Brad Pitt, showcased both the beauty of natural landscapes and the complexities of familial ties. Then came Quiz Show, 1994, a film that delved into the scandal surrounding a popular 1950s television quiz program. With that project, he once again earned a Best Director nomination, further cementing his reputation as someone who could expertly juggle the roles of both star and auteur, though ironically, he stayed firmly behind the camera for that one. On the personal front, Robert experienced the highs and lows that come with life's unpredictabilities. He was once married to Lola Van Wagenen, who left college to join him in matrimony on August 9, 1958. Together, they had 4 children, and although the world saw only the glamour that attached itself to the Redford name, heartbreak, too, found its way into their household. One of their children passed away due to sudden infant death syndrome, a tragedy that would forever leave an emotional mark. By 1985, Robert and Lola divorced, and though that chapter of his life ended, he found companionship again with the German painter Sybil Sagers. Some sources say that they've been together since 1996, sharing a bond shaped by art, nature, and perhaps a quieter corner of the world, far from the clamor of paparazzi and red carpets. In conversation about Robert's career, it's worth noting how many times his projects received recognition from institutions like the Library of Congress. 3 of his films, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Sting, and All the President's Men, were selected for the National Film Registry due to their cultural, historical, or aesthetic significance. Notably, none of the films he personally directed have made it into that select group, at least not yet, but that hardly diminishes the cultural weight of his overall impact. If anything, it illustrates that Robert Redford, the actor, and Robert Redford, the director, have each contributed significant works to cinema in different yet meaningful ways. Back in the early 1970s, Paramount had toyed with the idea of remaking the classic film Noir Double Indemnity, aiming for Robert to step into the role originally played by Fred MacMurray. The project never got off the ground, but the very prospect of him tackling such an iconic role illustrates the industry's enduring faith in his talent. Similarly, behind-the-scenes stories frequently pop up about roles he was considered for but never accepted, such as Michael Corleone in The Godfather, an idea that might make fans' heads spin. Picture him as an entirely different sort of young gangster, standing in for the eventual and now iconic Al Pacino. Studio executives apparently reasoned that Robert's lighter complexion could pass for a Northern Italian. Francis Ford Coppola had other ideas championing Pacino, and the rest is cinematic legend. Then there are the lesser-known tidbits that further flesh out the mosaic of Robert's life. He was once on the same high school graduation roster as famed Brooklyn Dodgers pitcher Don Drysdale. He's also admitted candidly that he doesn't enjoy watching his own performances and typically avoids seeing himself on screen. Interestingly, he singled out The Sting as the one movie in which he felt fully satisfied with his performance. Throughout his filmography, Robert has repeatedly gravitated toward period pieces, whether it's the turn-of-the-century West in Butch Cassidy, the Jazz Age in The Great Gatsby, or the World War I era in The Great Waldo Pepper. Those roles often exploit his ability to slip seamlessly into bygone worlds. Adultery as a plot device appears quite often in the stories he stars in as well, from The Way We Were to Indecent Proposal to The Horse Whisperer. Hollywood has long capitalized on forbidden love or moral quandaries, and Robert's aura as a romantic lead with an undercurrent of complexity suited him perfectly to roles that dwell in those gray areas of human relationships. He and the late director Sidney Pollack shared a strong collaborative bond, working together on 7 films including Out of Africa, 1985, which was yet another grand success, and also a film that nabbed Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Their partnership stands as one of those legendary Hollywood duos, reminiscent of other famed actor-director relationships that yield consistently memorable cinema. Beyond that, Robert also had fruitful collaborations with screenwriter William Goldman, the mastermind behind Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Hot Rock, The Great Waldo Pepper, All the President's Men, and A Bridge Too Far. In each of these films, Robert's presence grounded Goldman's words in a tangible, relatable protagonist, sometimes heroic, sometimes flawed, but always watchable. Though Robert's filmography brims with accolades, it's impossible to grasp his full legacy without acknowledging Sundance. The festival's name, borrowed from his Sundance Kid character, has become synonymous with the birth of groundbreaking cinematic voices, launching careers like those of Quentin Tarantino, Paul Thomas Anderson, and countless others. By championing independent cinema, Robert effectively transformed an entire segment of the industry. He recognized that not every story fits the commercial blueprint of big studios, and he wanted to create a space for those smaller, more adventurous narratives to bloom. Decades later, as streaming platforms become more dominant, one can argue that the indie ethos of Sundance quietly paved the way for fresh styles of storytelling, unburdened by the demands of box office returns. Away from the camera, Robert's environmental activism has not waned. Over the years, he lent his name, time, and resources to conservation efforts, effectively using his celebrity clout to address issues he considers pressing for the planet's well-being. In 2016, President Barack Obama awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, a moment that underscored just how expansive Robert's contributions have been, stretching from the cinematic realm to environmental advocacy and cultural promotion. That day in the White House was a testament to how one person's journey can ripple across different facets of society, from the rebellious Californian teenager who lost his baseball scholarship to a revered cultural icon recognized for championing creative expression and ecological responsibility. For a man who's excelled in multiple creative arenas, personal reflection is inevitable. Known for sometimes being reticent in interviews, Robert has occasionally confessed which words resonate most deeply for him. During a sit-down on Inside the Actor's Studio, he shared that his favorite word is possible, while his least favorite is whatever. This small revelation speaks volumes about his optimism and his disdain for nonchalance. Possible suggests that he believes in potential, the notion that with enough determination, new paths can always be forged. Whatever, on the other hand, implies indifference or disengagement, attitudes that run contrary to Robert's entire ethos. Later in his life, around 2013, he took on a particularly intense filming challenge with All Is Lost, a near-solo performance about a man lost at sea. The physicality of that role was punishing. The waterlogged set left him repeatedly drenched, ultimately leading to an ear infection that permanently cost him much of his hearing in his left ear. It's a stark reminder that even seasoned icons face down-to-earth struggles. They bleed, they suffer injuries, and they shoulder the consequences of physically demanding roles. Despite that, Robert pressed on, never letting the challenges deter him from fully investing in the story he wanted to tell. As the years have advanced, some fans have wondered about rumors of Robert's passing or serious decline in health, swirling gossip that tends to arise once a beloved figure opts for a quieter life. But Robert Redford has simply stepped back from the relentless pace of acting. At 87 years old, he remains very much himself, a man who once conquered the box office, shaped new cinematic movements, and now cherishes a degree of peace away from Hollywood's bright lights, In addition to starring in 2 Best Picture Academy Award winners, The Sting and Out of Africa, he directed another, Ordinary People. How many individuals can claim to have starred in multiple Oscar-winning films while also taking home an Oscar for Best Director in a separate venture? That trifecta alone cements his place among Hollywood's legendary figures. Time magazine also once listed him among the 100 most influential people in the world, highlighting the extraordinary breadth of his impact. He's not immune to near misses, of course. He was originally linked to the verdict, but bowed out because he felt uneasy portraying a character on such a losing streak. Ultimately, his friend Paul Newman took the role, netting an Oscar nomination. Looking back, the comedic tragedy of life is that some of the most iconic roles in film history come about through casting changes and misaligned schedules, and Robert's name appears in many stories of roles he nearly played. If that leaves you thinking that his career was a string of unstoppable victories, take a moment to consider his heartaches. He lost his mother, Martha, in 1955, just after he'd finished high school, at a time when he needed her steadying presence the most. Later, one of his children passed away from sudden infant death syndrome, a devastating blow for any parent. Through his activism, environmental work, and general outlook, one might sense that these tragedies etched within him a profound empathy and an acute understanding that, despite all our best efforts, fate can be capricious. It could be that this awareness is what makes his screen presence resonate with authenticity. He conveys not just the external polish of a movie star, but also the quietly simmering layers of someone who has experienced both triumph and grief. Robert's story underscores a timeless lesson that you can rise from a rebellious kid who gets kicked off the college baseball team for partying too hard to become a visionary whose creativity and passion alter the cultural landscape. Robert's life seems to insist that it's never too late to reorient your path, to funnel your energy into projects of lasting significance. He's equally at home discussing advanced conservation strategies or revealing on Inside the Actor's Studio that his favorite word is possible. The man who once pitched for the University of Colorado baseball team is the same man who eventually took home an Oscar and championed an entire festival that gave new life to American independent cinema. Is it any wonder that even speculation about him stepping out of the limelight draws words like sad or tragic? Fans simply hate to see the hands of time move forward. They want more from a figure who once felt like he could exist on screen forever. But while film can immortalize his youth, real life takes a different course. So what remains? A legacy? A timeless collection of roles, a handful of directorial efforts that arguably shaped the direction of American film, and a festival that continues to churn out surprising, provocative, and innovative works. When you glimpse Robert Redford's expressions in more recent interviews, you might see the warmth of someone who's made peace with life's cyclical nature, that you can't remain the young golden boy forever, but you can keep your curiosity, your sense of possibility, and your empathy for others burning brightly. Imagine him, perhaps, seated on a porch at the ranch in Utah, breathing in that crisp mountain air, or wandering amidst towering pines, reflecting on just how far he's come. From the days when he was just another restless teenager riding on a stolen hubcap high, or a frustrated college athlete losing a scholarship. The story of his life isn't one of uninterrupted sunshine. There were heartbreaks, missteps, and controversies. But those experiences added dimension to both the man and his performances. They provided the subtle shading that gave authenticity to the confident grin, the quiet thoughtfulness behind his eyes, and the discipline he demonstrated both in front of and behind the camera. In the end, Perhaps the real takeaway is that Robert Redford's journey reveals how a single individual can redefine an industry, champion the environment, and still put family and personal values above the typical Hollywood grind. Although he has stepped away from starring roles, the echoes of his earlier decades remain robust. They're found in the myriad of actors, directors, and writers who cite him as an influence, in the enthusiastic crowds that gather at the Sundance Film Festival each year, in the classic lines from the scripts of The Sting and Butch Cassidy, quoted by film aficionados, and in the quiet reverence with which he approaches nature. Yes, time is relentless, and we all have our memories of youth worn away. But that doesn't negate the richness of a life well lived. For Robert Redford, that life has spanned nearly 9 decades, forging a path that's inextricably linked to cinema history. He's provided countless audiences with unforgettable stories, championed new voices, fought for environmental preservation, and, in doing so, illuminated how art, commerce, and ethics can converge in one person's legacy. Even if his name drifts in and out of media headlines now, each mention evokes the solid weight of a career shaped by determination, talent, empathy, and an unwavering belief in the power of storytelling. Robert Redford's life is a testament to passion, talent, and the power of storytelling. From his unforgettable performances to his tireless advocacy for the arts and the environment, his legacy continues to inspire. While he has stepped away from acting, his influence remains timeless. If you enjoyed this look at Robert Redford's life and legacy, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories about Hollywood's greatest icons. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.